Good evening. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education was given as required by the Open Public Meeting Act as follows. Notice of the special Board of Education meeting was sent to the Star Ledger, the Courier News, and was also provided to all schools, PTO presidents, the BHEA president, and posted at the administration building on August 29th, 2022. A copy was also provided to the public library and filed with the municipal clerk. Roll call, Julie, please.
Mrs. Akiri. Mr. Chinchuli.
Here.
Dr. Forger.
Here.
Mr. Hyman.
Here.
Mrs. Penna.
Here.
Mrs. Stanley.
Here.
Mrs. Young.
Present.
Mr. D'Aquila.
Present. All rise for the flag salute.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we jump into comments from the public on any topic, I just want to take a second to reintroduce Dr. David Greer, our new Assistant Superintendent. He was approved back in June-ish. Welcome to your first meeting. So just want to give him a welcome and introduction. With that, comments from the public on any topic. During this portion of the meeting, members of the public are invited to address the Board of Education on any topic. The board requests that individuals state their name and township of residence or school of attendance for the record and ask that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee, not to individual board members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant's statement. Continued disruption may result in removal of the meeting and/or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. With that, any members of the public wishes to speak, please approach the podium, please. Can you turn on the mic if it's not on?
Thank you. Dipti Khanna. I have 2 kids in the school district, one in the Union County Schools. I sent out this email earlier in the day, so hopefully you've had a chance to read it and maybe have an answer. So I'm just going to read it out. The first one is, there's reporting in the local media that there is an ethics complaint against Dr. Varley that violates the district's nepotism policy. I think in the last meeting, there was an amendment that was proposed to this existing nepotism policy. My question is, given that there is this current ethics complaint that's going on, is it appropriate to amend that policy? And have the board members been aware of the complaint when the proposed amendment was put forward to them? So that's the first question.
Can you ask all your questions, please?
Okay. The next one was about the legal bills. So my understanding is that our legal bills in the last year have exceeded 150,000. Is that the right statement?
I have to defer. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Generally in that range, Julie, is that? Yeah, okay. My understanding is we do have a policy, I think it's policy number 174, that's also tied to a New Jersey statute, which basically says that school districts with legal bills that exceed 130% of the statewide average of cost per student, they need to put some procedures in place. I'm assuming it's to kind of check, how the district is doing or having some prudent legal bills. How do you approach that? I think part of that was having a designated contact. I don't know if it's within the board or within the administration, but having a designated contact who needs to be the point person to receive all of the requests. They will determine if the request warrants legal advice or not. They are supposed to maintain a log of all legal counsel contacts, including the name of the counsel, the date of the contact, and so on. So my question is, who is that designated contact for our district, or how many do we have? Can they provide a status of how many requests for legal counsel have been received this year? And do they have any documented rules on how they treat something as a valid request? And finally, can the public get a copy of the log that is being maintained?
Are those your questions?
Those are my questions, yes.
So at the last meeting, we pulled that policy that wasn't being changed. A question was raised about hiring of both board members and the superintendent. It was recommended to go back to policy to remove that from the policy. That was being updated as part of the normal updates that we received from our policy company to say these are out of date and these are policy needs to be updated. But we did not pass that policy. That was pulled. And that went back to committee to look to revise it, to remove both the superintendent and board members from hiring family members, from hiring, not family members or whatever the terminology is.
So you're saying that you are not going to take out that amendment, which would have basically,
We're revising the policy based on recommendation at the meeting. So we're not, policy's not up for approval yet.
okay. And then my second question about the designated contact, is there,
I am not familiar with that policy, so I'm going to ask Robert if we can research that. I am not familiar with that policy, if there is such a thing, state statute or anything, so I can't comment yes or no.
it's also a Berkeley Heights policy.
Okay, I don't have all the policies memorized, so I can't answer it. So I'll ask Robert if we can come back at the next meeting, if we can see that about that policy on that. So again, I'm not familiar.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Natasha Jolly. I have two kids, one in Governor Livingston High School, an 8th grader at CMS. So I was at the last meeting and I think there was a bit of discussion around the Zoom meetings. So what I wanted to ask is, have there been any change in that view that, you know, Zoom meetings are kind of view only and that there is no audience participation? So that was question number one. And if so, question number two is that I'd like to understand the cost of the Zoom equipment that was purchased, because if in the end, it's really just the same as having something on YouTube where, you know, people can only watch and not participate, I feel that would have been a waste of district money. So my second question is, what was the cost of the Zoom equipment? The second question relates to the health curriculum materials. So we discussed last meeting as well, all the standards and, you know, that are, you know, coming into effect. And there was an outline that was published. And though not so much a concern for me because my kids are older, but I am rather curious to understand the specific curriculum that will be taught for second graders, for example, under the guise of, well, under the topic, I should say, of, you know, pregnancy and parenting or sexual health. I think that's important to have. And I think a lot of parents with younger kids are a little concerned without seeing the specific curriculum. They don't know if they should opt out or not. So my question is, will this material become available prior to the classes being taught?
Does it?
Mhm.
So we're going to reverse order. Mary Beth, can you take that last one?
The curriculum is already posted on our website and the opt-out letter is also on our website.
Thank you. I did see the opt-out letter. And I looked through the curriculum. So I guess, you know, there are, you know, several elementary schools, like is there like specific things that are listed, like specific links to
The
the,
entire curriculum is posted on our district website.
I'll double check again.
You may be looking at the building sites. Our district website, the entire
Okay.
curriculum is posted under elementary curriculum. And then you could ask Mrs. Clifton about the 6 to 12 curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
As far as cost of the equipment, I believe it's around 10,000. Does that sound about 10,000 off the hand? But I believe that's about the approximate budget, if I remember from last fall. And no, at this point in time, Zoom participation is going to be as we see it, as we get today.
Okay, so again, it feels like it's $10,000 that was spent then for no reason, because the whole point was to enable participation. Otherwise, you might as well watch the YouTube channel. Thank you.
Hi, Ramya Kasturi. I'm at 86 Cromwell Court in Berkeley Heights. I'm here to inquire about where we are with the teacher's contract. I believe since 2006, our teachers have not had a contract that was finalized timely, and we are approaching a very critical year for our students. It'll be the first time in maybe 2 years that they can have anything resembling a normal school year. So it's really imperative that there's a teacher's contract in place. There's been a lot of talk about the learning gaps, and there's also been a lot of talk from one board member in particular about a desire to support teachers and to increase teacher morale. And that board member is actually on the negotiations committee. And here we are, school's about to start, and where's the teacher's contract? So I'm here to inquire as to the status of the teacher's contract and to encourage those board members who are pushing it to be finalized to continue to do so, because I can take an educated guess as to who they are and as to who the board members are that are keeping it from being finalized.
Those are your questions.
Yes.
So the answer is that's why we're meeting tonight. So that's about I can give on the update on the contract. So that's why we're having our exec session.
And is there a reason for the delay? Why are we in September with no teacher's contract?
I can't comment on that right now.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question from the public? All right. Whereas the Berkeley Heights, I'm sorry.
Helen Guevara, 62 Burlington Road. I'm looking up the health curriculum. I always thought that there were guidelines, there was a list of what you had to teach, but the curriculum is the books and materials that you are using to teach from. And I don't see the curriculum on the website.
Are you looking at the K-5 Berkeley Heights?
Yes.
Comprehensive
And
and-
I'm seeing a whole list of what, I'm seeing a whole list of what you have to teach,
Everything,
managing self, setting goals.
everything we utilize to teach the lessons are in those units of study. That is what the teachers use to teach the lessons.
So they basically make up their own worksheets in their own,
They do
Um,
not make up worksheets.
where are the PowerPoints, the workbooks?
There are no workbooks. We don't have workbooks for
Okay.
health.
I want to go to a school and look at the curriculum. When can I go there and page through either on paper or click through to see the materials that they're using in the class? That's the curriculum. This is a list of topics.
I don't mean to disagree, but that is our curriculum. That is what teachers use.
So they
To
look at
implement
this and then they
lessons.
teach a second
So
grader.
I would just suggest looking on a desktop, because I know when I go on my phone, it's very difficult sometimes to get things to pull up, but the curriculum is on there. I know I've looked it up because I've been doing it. Because I'm on the curriculum committee. So you have to go on and actually click it. The whole curriculum is there from top to bottom, not just the books and worksheets. And so you can see the first section, this is what they'll go over. And there's points there that they have to talk about in each curriculum. So it is there. If you try going on a desktop, that's the best way to get the curriculum to download.
So maybe I think what Natasha and Helen are asking is lesson plans, like how other districts are put together, like Chatham and other districts. Do we have any lesson plans? Do we plan to share them, or this is it? Maybe all they're asking for is exact lesson plans.
Teachers create their own lesson plans. We wouldn't share those out. They usually share at usually a week before they talk about what they're going to be talking about the next week. But teachers' lesson plans are based on their degrees and their expertise. So they will be doing that on their own.
So just to clarify, Dr. Worley, what Mrs. Copez just said is whatever we have under curriculum is on the district website.
But the curriculum is on the website. We do not share lesson plans out. That's the
So we
teacher's
don't-
sole property.
So even though some of our neighboring districts are sharing the lesson plans, we don't have any plans of doing that. Okay, thank you.
It is 190 pages as to what's posted for K-5 with click outs. I haven't clicked on all of them, but it seems comprehensive.
Dr. Valley, some of those teachers will potentially share some of their curriculum sort of as the school year starts, right?
Yes, they do.
Because
They usually
that's,
do like a Friday before,
so-
say, this is what's coming up next week, especially in the younger grades.
and they will reach out to, from
Yeah.
my understanding and back in those grades, teachers will reach out to the parents and sort of share that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And if I can clarify and again, this has been past practice. For example, in fifth grade, there is the sex education lessons that have been in existence since at least 2014, but long before that, and will continue to happen. And so it's the same lessons that were taught before and will continue to be taught in fifth grade. And when parents have questions about those, and we've had parents ask questions in the past about those lessons, they generally go to the principal or to the health teacher and say, what exactly do these lessons look like? And then they choose whether they want their children to participate in or not. The opt-out lessons or the opt-out option has been around since early 2000s. So we've had this in practice and in place for a long, long time.
All right, thank you. Mhm.
Real quick. Sorry. I just genuinely couldn't find it. Could it be, can I ask that maybe as part of like the meeting minutes, we just include the link to the website where it's stored? Because I just, I
Mike,
don't know.
can we can we get on the website, drop it into the chat?
That'd be
Perfect.
great. Thank you.
Okay.
The link in the chat is you can't see it after when you post it on the.
At least right now, people can get it and then
No, I think her request was, can we put it in the meeting minutes so that,
when the meeting minutes don't come out for a
Yeah,
month,
no,
if they want
yeah,
it now,
but-
I figure put it in the chat, they can click on it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, John.
John McGuiz, 2 kids using CMS. So I think I'm supportive of sex education. You know, I think kids end up knowing way more than we give them credit for before they go into high school. I think the challenge a lot of times, and maybe this is kind of I don't think it's so much the availability of the information. Maybe that's true. I think this is the same thing that's happened with a lot of initiatives, is that people, whether or not you feel like you're communicating it, and whether or not there are pages and pages of documents out there, somehow it's not getting to people. And I've always been a big proponent of when you have values-based hot points, and I'm not judging it as good or bad. You know, sex education is a values-based discussion, whether or not you want to admit that or not. Unfortunately, I don't see it this way, DEI as well. Police and schools, which is something I feel very passionate about against, is also a discussion that kind of falls into place and into that sort of zone. And I feel like we can do a better job. I don't get why we just can't talk about this stuff, like as a conversation leading up to it. I think you did a better job this year in terms of conveying that. And it's not you doing a better job. I think this district did a better job. I think you did a good job in terms of conveying that. But I think overall, we consistently fall short. And this, I'm going to bring up the reconfiguration. I know everybody's tired of hearing about that. But time and time again, anytime there's a big deal, it feels like it feels like there's a decision already made. And the idea is to sell what you have versus having a conversation about, and hey, you might have valid points. I'm not saying everything that you guys do or say is terrible, but it's as if nobody else has a valid point or a position that needs to be considered. And once they do, they're vilified. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go into the examples of that. But that's just some feedback. I think you guys can benefit from having months of lead-in conversations with people. Maybe, you know, having small groups, town halls, I've always been a big advocate of that, might improve some of this stuff. I don't think there needs to be confusion around sex education.
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. We're going to adjourn to executive session now. Whereas the Berkeley Heights Board of Education, I'll just shut this thing up. Seeks to adjourn to executive session in full compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-6. Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act provides that a public body may exclude the public from the portion of the meeting at which it discusses matter related to those identified below. Matters rendered confidential by federal law, state law, or court rule, individual policy, privacy, collective bargaining agreements, purchase or lease of real property if public interest could be adversely affected, investment of public funds if public interest could be adversely affected, tactics or techniques utilized in protecting public safety and property, pending or anticipated litigation, attorney-client privilege, personnel, employment matters affecting a specific prospective or current employees. Be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Education adjourns to executive session to discuss matters related to BHEA negotiations, and be it further resolved that minutes of the discussions of any of these items will be disclosed to the public when matters has been determined and confidentially is no longer applicable. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? I have a second. Discussion? Roll call, Julie, please.
Mrs. Akiri,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli,
Yes.
Dr. Forger,
Yes.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Penna,
Yes.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
Mrs. Young, Mr. Tequila.
Yes. Once we were done, we'll only be coming out to adjourn, only there'll be no further discussions in public on any other topics. Thank you very much.